Welcome back. This time we're talking about episodes 2 and 3 of Disney XD's reboot of DuckTales, the classic cartoon from the early 90s. These are the first new episodes since the pilot episode debuted last month. Now, before I get into my review of the episodes, let me say, unlike my review of the pilot episode, this review will contain spoilers for both episodes that aired this past Saturday. So if you haven't seen the episodes yet, I recommend you pause this video, go watch the episodes, and then come back and hear my thoughts and add your own in the comments below. I really enjoyed the pilot, and I thought it set up a good foundation for what will hopefully be a very enjoyable series and a worthy successor to the original cartoon. The second episode, Daytrip of Doom, is a very typical second episode of a new series, and I don't mean that in a negative way. The pilot episode gave our characters a new normal, in which Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Donald are now living with Uncle Scrooge. Webby has new friends, and they will potentially be going on adventures together in the future. And this episode explores that new normal, especially when it comes to Webby. She is someone who has been essentially sheltered her entire life, never left the mansion. She's quite capable and has been taught to handle just about any situation that comes her way, with the exception of everyday normal life. And the show gets to have fun with this when Huey, Dewey, Louie invite her to accompany them to Funzo's Fun Zone, essentially a pirate-themed Chuck E. Cheese's. And we get the expected fish out of water moments where Webby messes up over and over again because she just doesn't understand how normal people act. And I will say they come close to overdoing it, but not quite. The whole fish out of water, clueless person story trope kind of grates on me pretty quickly, but for the most part I enjoyed this episode, and it really did a good job of bonding Webby with the other characters. And it's one of those things that the way they set her character up in the pilot, they had to address it, and I'm glad they went ahead and did it here, and hopefully they can kind of tone down that aspect of her character moving forward. The other major thing that this episode did was to reintroduce the Beagle Boys. We see early on a newspaper headline that they had been pardoned and crime was skyrocketing, and here we get to see they're trying to rob a bank, or an armored car at least, and then decide that they're going to go kidnap all of our young ducklings. And of course their mother's not too happy about that, and we end up having this huge fight at the end. One of the things I really liked about the pilot is that they gave each character a level of capability. There was no clueless, bumbling idiot. Uncle Scrooge has been adventuring for a very long time. He knows what he's doing. He may be a little out of practice, but he's skilled in these sorts of situations. In the same vein, Donald apparently has been involved with some of these adventures in the past and has his own skills to bring. So his part of this episode was getting on the nerves of Miss Beakley and Uncle Scrooge with his sort of bumbling ways at the mansion, buying a lot of generators, setting his boat on fire, and he's sort of the comic relief character. But when it came time to, get busy and go rescue his nephews from the Beagle Boys, he goes to town, and like I said, he has capabilities. It just goes a long way to make all of the characters more interesting. And so as I said, the second episode is really your typical, let's explore this new normal, as well as a longer exploration into Webby's social awkwardness. And in that it succeeded. It's not my favorite episode. Like I said, those type of storylines grate on me quickly. It did start to grate on me in the middle acts, but once they had to fight against the Beagle Boys, that's when the episode really picked up, and we got some fun with the brothers and Webby teaming together to go after some of them, and then Donald and Miss Beakley doing the same outside. So if the second episode was this exploring the new normal, the third episode, The Great Dime Chase, was mostly about setting things up for future storylines. It does appear that this show is going to have a level of continuity that we're going to have to follow from episode to episode. It's not going to be just completely episodic, where one adventure ends and we never hear about it again. And I'm liking that idea. I like a level of continuity in my shows. I remember watching the original Teen Titans cartoon. When I say original, I mean like the modern original Teen Titans cartoon, not the Teen Titans Go cartoon. And they didn't start out with a lot of continuity, but they quickly developed it and actually built things over multiple seasons. So the idea that they're going to have storylines to follow moving forward is something I'm really looking forward to. The other interesting thing about this episode is that Huey does not appear at all in this episode. Essentially, there are two mostly divergent storylines that occasionally connect. But for the most part, we have Louie accompanying Uncle Scrooge to his money pit to be taught about laziness and work ethic, because he's just essentially lazy and is kind of taking advantage of the fact that he's now living with the richest duck in the world. And after accidentally spending what he thinks is Uncle Scrooge's first dime, he goes on this crazy adventure to get it back, and this puts him in contact with Gyro Gearloose in his wacky adventures, in this case Little Bulb, which is a play on a character from, I had to read this online, I'm not that well versed in Donald Duck lore, but is a character who has shown up in the comics over the years. Obviously, Gearloose is someone that did appear in the original cartoon, and a lot of what happens in this episode feels like future setup for Gearloose going into other directions and introducing other characters that we would remember if you've seen the original cartoon. In our second storyline in this episode, we have Dewey and Webby furthering his investigation into what happened to his mother. That was the big secret that was revealed at the end of the pilot. I alluded to it in my review but didn't mention it because I was trying to keep that review spoiler free. But we find out that their mother, the three brothers' mother, apparently did take part in adventures with Uncle Scrooge and Donald, and I guess is just like completely missing. Their parents were never really at all mentioned or explored in the original cartoon that I remember. So this is something new that they're diving right into this. They gave us the hint in the pilot episode, and now in the third episode they're diving right into this mystery. And it involves them going to Uncle Scrooge's money pit to investigate one of his private archives. And it's there that they meet the curator, Emily Quackfeather, another character from the comics who, again, I read this online, did appear in the original cartoon, but using a different name. And she becomes essentially the librarian equivalent of a ninja master, sending our two friends on a variety of missions that are essentially just doing chores, but they learn things along the way, skills that they're able to use at the end to get into a secret vault dedicated to Della Duck. And although we learned very little new about Della Duck, we do find out that she had written a note to Uncle Scrooge apologizing for stealing the Spear of Selene. What that is, why she did it, and where she took it are still mysteries to be solved, but I'm sure we're going to be getting clues to this mystery as we move forward. It just remains to be seen if this is going to be, over the entire first season, or if they're going to continue this moving even further. Of course, if they do find their mother, I guess they could then go search for their father, or we'll learn more about him. He has not yet been mentioned at all in the show. Again, like I said in my in discussing the second episode, I like that Uncle Scrooge was shown again to have a number of capabilities. I mean, he has not become the richest duck in the world and gone on all of these adventures and survived them by accident. We get to see him, basically hoodwink his vulture board of directors into keeping all of the employees employed when they're trying to find ways to cut. Because, as he puts it, they're all kind of crazy, and if they were to fire them, they might come back for revenge. I mean, how many comic book villains start out as disgruntled employees who got fired? So I love that he was self-aware enough of that. And then also the reveal that the dime was not the actual dime, and he's like, why would I be stupid enough to leave it around? These people around here are crazy. So it was fun to see, again, him having those capabilities. I liked how Webby was able to use some of her skills and not feel such a fish out of water, and was able to bond with the other characters. So all in all, I enjoyed these episodes. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in this show moving forward, both with our adventures of the week, as well as at least the 2 storylines that were put together in this one for future investigations. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you. What did you think of these 2 episodes, and how have you liked the show so far? Please comment below and let me know, so we can get a little bit of a dialogue going, so I'm not just talking to a screen all the time. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some other reviews, and until next time, be sure you use the right wattage light bulb when building your possibly sentient robots.